So we are all still sort of stumbling around in a poorly lit room. And this was just one attempt to try
So
to.
that's how a senior policy advisor at ECOnorthwest, a Portland-based research firm, describes the region's response to homelessness, especially when it comes to money being spent to address it. Today, the firm released its third and final report on how much money is being spent on homelessness and where it's ending up. Here's the report. Take a look. It's called Sources and Uses of Resources to Address Homelessness in the Portland Region. Again, this is the last of 3 annual reports, and this one is focused on fiscal year 2024, which ran from July 2023 to the end of June 2024. Now, those behind the report call it the most complete understanding of homelessness intervention in the nation. Big statement there. Okay, so let's dive in. The report looked at money from the following sources: federal, state, regional, county, city, and private. And these are the groups they looked at: Multnomah County, Washington County, Metro, the City of Portland, Home Forward, Oregon Housing, and Community Services, including 50 nonprofits. That's more nonprofits getting money for homelessness than when this study started 3 years ago.
It's a complex landscape. As you know, as you can sort of tell, there are many different funding streams coming in, and there's a variety of different government entities that are sort of touching this, and then obviously lots of different nonprofits that are providing it. So it's an especially sort of complex fiscal landscape.
Researchers found between summer of 2023 to 2024, more than $700 million were spent on efforts to address homelessness. That money going to a total of 522 different groups across the Tri-County area, Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties. Take a look. Here's how it breaks down. More than $300 million in regional spending. That's mainly supportive housing services, or SHS tax dollars. More than $100 million from the federal government, $70 million from Multnomah County, $66 million from the City of Portland, and just $39 million from the state. Researchers warn recent federal legislation could impact these amounts moving forward a lot.
As you sort of look through and understand the composition of the money that you have, you can start to look at where you've got risk. And I would say we have an awful lot of risk in that federal space. And by extension of the big, beautiful bill, I would say the state appropriations are also at risk.
A spokesperson for Regional Government Metro told us even before the Trump administration, the federal government made only a small contribution to efforts to address homelessness, one of the most significant issues in our country. With federal support likely to be cut even further, these regional resources are more important, and this is why we're working to meet this challenge at the regional level. But going back now to that total of more than $700 million spent during fiscal year 2024, you can see here more than $250 million went to safety on and off the streets. About $219 million spent on supportive housing, $141 million for housing placement, $64 million on system access, assessment, and navigation, and $46 million on admin costs. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Those are pretty broad categories. Like, what does safety on and off the streets even mean? And what is system access, assessment, and navigation? Well, according to researchers, it depends on who you ask, and that is one of the problems they ran into.
All those categories of uses found their root stock in Multnomah County's way of characterizing spending. Metro then sort of adopted most of the nouns and verbs of that accounting, the safety off and on the streets and the housing placement, et cetera. We did encounter some different interpretations between counties on what they were considering, which broad categories they were putting different kinds of spending in, and that stuff just needs to be better aligned.
The researchers then broke down where geographically this money was spent. And no surprise, the most, more than $500 million, was spent in Multnomah County. And here's how those amounts break down into those broad categories that I just mentioned. For example, on top there, more than $200 million spent on safety on and off the streets in Multnomah County, compared to $16 million spent for the same thing in Clackamas County. Well, if you think about it, that checks out, seeing as there are more homeless people on the streets in Multnomah County than Clackamas. And when it comes to supportive housing, $130 million was spent in Multnomah County and about $45 million spent in Washington and Clackamas each.
And what's going to stand out here, as you look at Multnomah County, a sizable amount of spending on safety on and off the streets and shelters and outreach. Obviously, a large disproportionate share of the region's unsheltered homeless population is located in Multnomah County.
Okay, so interesting data, but what's it all for? Well, researchers hope it will guide not only local leaders, but state lawmakers too, when building homelessness funding packages. Not only that, but they hope the data helps build trust with you, the public, giving people an understanding of how much is being spent, who is spending it, and for roughly what purpose. In the end, those behind the report believe there needs to be more alignment with the region's response, something that we hear time and time again, especially when it comes to tracking dollars that flow from state agencies directly to nonprofits, as well as being able to track outcomes, considering that, yes, between summer of 23 and summer of 24, more than $700 million were spent on homelessness in the region, and the issue, frankly, did not improve.
This work should be considered a launching pad, not an endpoint. This is, I would still consider to be a fairly crude assessment, and there's just an awful lot more is needed to be able to manage this system well and to build trust, public trust in how these dollars are being managed and spent. At some point, you've got to take these dollars that we're talking about and getting better at counting, and take all that much richer information that we have about the people who are serving and start to put dollars to people and really understand, okay, as we're doing sort of long-term permanent solutions for individuals, how much are we spending per year on individuals? What is the distribution of that?
Okay, so what is going through your mind? Did anything surprise you from the report? If so, what is it and why? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090.